but my
Você vai chorar. Ai, queimou. Puta, queimou a foto lá. Putz. Caramba. Quando eu cheguei aqui, eu falei assim, dá pra afastar os cubos? Aí eu falei, não, é designer. Então tá. Companhia do Quintal. Boa tarde! A outra coisa, o microfone é melhor, todos estamos bem melhor alimentados, né? Outra coisa.
Muda o semblante, né?
Muda.
Que quando tá com fome, você fala e você vê a pessoa passeando, assim, pensando no bife, na comida.
Gente, tem ainda as pessoas podem ficar onde você quiser. Você vai sentar no mesmo lugar ou no outro lugar? Não, olha, metódica, né? Vai lá sentar lá.
E tem uma coisa...
Eu sento aqui, vou terminar o dia sentado aqui, gente. Né? Fala.
Eu fico curioso, quando as pessoas vão passar no meio, que elas fazem assim, a gente vê igual, né?
Exatamente.
Estamos vendo igual, pode passar normal.
Sensacional. Álvaro, fala.
Eu vou dar um depoimento, posso? Lá atrás o César ficou hashtag chateado, porque ele não está entendendo muitas coisas que estão sendo ditas aqui. E até agora, quem se ofereceu para dar aula para ele, uma é do Maranhão, a outra é de Campinas, não tem ninguém aqui de São Paulo.
Então, é impressionante. Vocês, quem é de São Paulo? Tá. Primeiro, quando eu passar do lado, não finge que não me conhece. Porque é impressionante, todo mundo fora de São Paulo está me propondo aula. Agora, o pessoal de São Paulo evaporou.
Não, porque tem perigo de querer fazer. Aí, eu desenvolvi um método para contemplar o César e alguém aqui que, porventura, não fale bem inglês, que é o Singing and Learning. Que é uma metodologia para aprender inglês cantando, César.
Tá, perfeito.
Ó, vocês vão ver que é fácil. Snow é neve, cachorro é dog, o gato é cat, a rã é frog. Tomorrow é amanhã, and your sister.
Pera aí.
Agora
Fala, continua.
com todo mundo completando, inclusive você, César, para ver se aprendeu.
Vamos lá.
Snow
É
é
neve,
cachorro é,
dog,
o gato é,
cat,
a rã
é frog.
é tomorrow.
É amanhã.
And your sister.
Pera aí. Tem gente, sabe, eu tenho uma maneira mais fácil de aprender, além da música, é com coreografia.
Você é sinestésico.
Não, é porque tem gente que fala assim, nossa, eu quero...
Inteligências múltiplas.
Né, eu quero envelhecer. Olha só, gente. Não, tem gente que fala, meu sonho é morrer maduro. Gente, eu quero morrer mais criança do que eu fui, entendeu? Então é o seguinte, eu guardo as coisas mais pelo corpo do que por aqui. Então, podemos fazer a coreografia aqui, isso vai me ajudar muito? Tá, vocês me acompanham? Vamos lá.
Porque fazer sozinho é pagar mico. Todo mundo junto é flash mob.
Vamos lá. Vocês me acompanham.
Snow. Cachorro é. O gato é. A rã é.
Galera, pera um minuto só. Todo mundo tem cox. Dá uma puladinha no cox. Vai ser...
É isso.
E você aí de casa, faça a mesma coisa. Eu tô adorando essa comunicação live. Vamos
Tava
lá.
ótimo, nós tivemos aqui na Bela Vista.
Desde o começo da neve, vai.
Snow é. Cachorro. O gato é. A rã é frog. Tomorrow é amanhã. And your sister.
Gente, muito obrigado. Salva de palmas para vocês, gente. Sensacional, sensacional. E para a gente começar a tarde, tem me perguntado algumas pessoas aonde eu vejo os Celebration Stories. Não perguntaram?
Celebration
Stories! Aí é o seguinte.
Eu não resisti.
Como é? Vai.
Celebration
Stars! Sensacional.
Ah, não.
É
Dá
lindo.
pra fazer um clipe.
Vamos lá, vamos todo mundo junto, ó. Gente,
Celebration Stars.
gente, me arrepiou inteiro. É
Não é?
impressionante. Não é todo dia que a gente tem quase 1000 pessoas falando bem inglês e fala, come on, come on. Não é todo dia, gente. É o seguinte, então, para ver Celebration Stories, vocês, é só acessar o YouTube, não é isso, Leonardo? Maravilha. Ele está assim aflito. Fala assim, será que o César vai sair do briefing? Eu nem comecei no briefing, Leonardo. Tá? É o seguinte, vamos passar o Carlinhos. O Carlinhos. Ah, e tem o pessoal de casa que está falando, não, eu vejo Celebration Stories. Então, aquela pergunta que eu fiz no começo, teve mais pessoas lá de casa que assistiram do que vocês, mas não significa que eles são melhores. Só assistiram. Só isso. Tá? É o seguinte, esse cara, vocês têm que assistir esse vídeo, e até anotei porque eu não ia conseguir falar sem errar. Ele trabalha como guia turístico de um sítio arqueológico em Carnaúba dos Dantas.
Onde fica?
É por isso que eu anotei, né? Carnaúba dos Dantas, Rio Grande do Norte. Tá. E ele, é muito interessante que ele começou a receber turistas e não sabia inglês, então ele teve que aprender inglês. E esse lugar para começar a dar aula, porque ele falou assim, chegou um ponto que eu falei assim, para a gente continuar recebendo turistas, é muito ruim depender só de mim. Então, quanto mais guias souberem inglês, mais a gente vai poder receber as pessoas aqui. Então, ele começou a dar aula de inglês para a molecada, e veja esse vídeo, é muito legal. E outra coisa que ele falou que é interessantíssimo, que ele falou assim, para eu poder explicar e falar bem dessa realidade, desses sítios arqueológicos, por isso eu estou aqui anotando, né? Eu tenho que passar a mesma paixão quando eu vi pela primeira vez, porque se eu não conseguir reproduzir a paixão, eu não vou conseguir reproduzir e passar e ensinar essas pessoas que vão visitar. Então, veja esse vídeo, é muito legal, e ele fala muito sobre criatividade, como o Michael também falou sobre criatividade. E pegando a palavra criatividade, eu vou chamar um convidado mais do que especial. Alguém já ouviu falar, para um dos grandes representantes do Brasil, fora do Brasil, e no Brasil é único, Barbatux? Quem já ouviu falar em Barbatux? Né, ele inclusive fez o encerramento das Olimpíadas. E falando de criatividade, eu acho que eles têm muito que nos ensinar. Então eu vou chamar ele, amigo, parceiro, eu sou fã número 1 desse grupo. Com vocês, Giba do Barbatuque! É assim, bicho, ele fala assim, mano.
Tarde!
Só,
Que honra estar aqui, muito
deixa eu ver se...
obrigado.
Ó, nada, pelo.
Nada.
Não tem nada. Pelo e coração.
Muito.
Muito. Giba, é possível você fazer uma demonstração e fazer com que todos sejam uma orquestra de percussão? É possível?
Podemos chegar nisso. Boa tarde, uma honra estar aqui. Tudo bem? Posso começar brincando um pouco com eles?
Você está livre.
Estou livre?
Está livre. A gente tem 42 minutos. Brincadeira.
Tum! 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 Pá! Tum! Pá! Tum! Pá! Tum! Pá! Tum! Pá!
Tum, pá, tum, pá.
Tum! Pá! Tum! Tum! Pá! Tum! Pá! Tum! Pá!
Espera aí, Giba. O pessoal fala inglês, não fala tchutchuspá, tchutchuspá, tchutchuspá. Vai na boa.
Ok. Tum!
Tum, tum.
Eles precisam fazer isso? Não, né? Só...
Não, é um comando. It's a command that they have to reproduce what I'm.
Ah!
Grupo internacional, é outra coisa. Vai lá.
Okay, let's start again.
Ah.
Tum! Pá!
Sensacional, Giba! Sensacional. A gente é amigo e tem uma experiência que eles fizeram. Quem viu um filme de animação chamado O Menino e o Mundo? Menino e o Mundo, quem? Tá.
Incrível, né?
Assistam, é incrível. E o Barbatux, que fez a trilha desse filme, foi indicado
Ao Oscar.
ao Oscar.
De melhor animação.
Indicado ao Oscar. E, falando sobre criatividade, ele me falou que eles tiveram um desafio, que tinha uma cena que... Melhor você contar, porque a história é sua.
Tá bom. Bom, basicamente, a gente tinha... Aqui, vocês estão me ouvindo bem? Aqui? Legal.
Não.
Basicamente, não? Melhor o microfone.
Isso.
Okay. Para ela só. Tá bom.
Tem 1000 pessoas e ela não escuta. Não, então, vamos lá. Foca ela e fala alto assim.
Não. Em que língua? Sim. Sempre
Fala para todo mundo, eu foco nela.
Tá bom. Se quiser ir, tá bom? Então, basicamente, a gente tinha esse desafio no estúdio de reproduzir alguns sons da natureza. A justiça seja feita, a trilha sonora inteira desse filme foi feita pelo Naná Vasconcelos, que é um músico pernambucano incrível, referência pra gente há muitos anos, e pelo Emicida, rapper paulista aqui também, e pelo grupo Barbatux. O Barbatux tem essa proposta de fazer música usando os sons do corpo. Por uma grande coincidência, você viu que todo mundo trouxe instrumento hoje. A gente vai tocar junto, né, alguma hora. Tá bom. E aí, a gente tinha que resolver algumas coisas com esses relativamente poucos recursos que o corpo nos proporciona como instrumentos. Então, eu vou começar fazendo primeiro um som que todo mundo é acostumado a fazer, que é o som da batida de palma. Mas a gente vai ver algumas palmas diferentes. Vocês lembram do Playmobil? Lembra da mãozinha do Playmobil, como era? Faz a mãozinha do Playmobil assim, ó. Com as duas mãos. É só você invertendo uma só, curvando, deixando um pouquinho de ar aqui no meio, é a palma mais grave que a gente consegue fazer, ó. Can you explain what this sign means to?
Eu mando e vocês obedecem, ok?
Então, como se diz na culinária, pegue essa palma e reserve. Prendemos uma.
Ô, Rita Lobo! A Rita Lobo aí baixou.
Uma outra palma bem comum, que é a palma que a gente usa para aplaudir, a gente nada mais é do que bater com os dedos de uma mão na palma da outra. Vamos fazer. Tenta inverter, ó. Fazer o contrário do que você sempre fez. Já causa um estranhamentozinho, né? Simplesmente porque você fez a vida inteira de um lado só. Só com essas duas palmas, a gente já consegue fazer alguns ritmos e já consegue uma introdução na linguagem musical. Então eu vou fazer e a gente repete. Legal. Mais uma palma, que a gente usa no Barbatux, a gente chama de palma estrela. Então, a gente abre bem as mãos. Essa precisa de um pouquinho de tônus, um pouquinho de força. Cuidado para os dedos não entrelaçarem, assim. Ponta com ponta. E essa, ao contrário do que a gente está acostumado, em vez de bater e tirar a mão, a gente bate e fica. Ouve primeiro o som para a gente buscar um som mais ardidinho, ó. Tenta fazer. Legal, na ordem do grave... Thank you. Na ordem do grave para o agudo, vamos fazer 4 de cada uma. Então, recapitulando. É a palma que a gente chama de palma concha, a mãozinha do Playmobil. Depois a palma estrela. E depois a palma estalada, que é a tradicional. Então, comigo. Legal, percebe que já tem uma curva de som aí do grave para o agudo.
Eles estão obedecendo bem mais também, né? Ó. Parece autoridade, né?
Authority.
Authority.
Yes. A próxima palma, a gente fecha bem a mão. Percebe uma coisa, o corpo tem exatamente a mesma relação que uma bateria. Quanto mais você aperta a bateria, a pele estica e o som fica mais agudo. Com o corpo, exatamente a mesma coisa. Então, a diferença dessa palma para essa é o esticar da pele aqui, como se fosse um tambor. Então, para ficar mais agudo ainda, a gente fecha bem uma mão, a outra normal, e a gente bate com as costas da mão na palma da outra. Essa aqui, ó, cuidado para não fazer isso. Não relaxa a mão, deixa ela bem esticada. Legal. Então, 4 de cada uma do grave para o agudo. Massa.
Tá ficando louco. Tá.
Não, você vai ver o que... Não.
Vamos pirar, vamos pirar.
Não, vamos pirar. A última é o seguinte. Estica bem a mão. 2 dedinhos da outra. Mão esticada. Esse som já lembra alguma coisa? Legal. Então, ó, o que a gente vai fazer? Usando essa escalinha, aí já tem um jogo da memória, que a gente vai fazer ela ao contrário. A gente fez ela do grave para o agudo. Usando essa escala, qual que era o desafio que a gente tinha no estúdio? Quando a gente recebeu o desenho, tinha uma cena que começava a chover muito de leve, e aí virava uma baita chuva e voltava a ser uma chuva leve. A gente usou essa escala de palma. A gente chamou um monte de gente no estúdio, passou exatamente essa ordem, colocamos para gravar, vendo o vídeo. Então, qual vai ser o nosso código? Quanto mais agudo, ou seja, no começo, menos nota, são pinguinhos. Pinga ali, pinga ali, pinga ali, pinga ali. Quanto mais for indo para o grave, passando para as palmas graves, aumenta a intensidade, portanto, a quantidade. Então, no começo, se cada um estiver fazendo... Isso não precisa ser ritmado, né, gente? Senão tô na chuva, não tô na chuva, tô na chuva, não tô na chuva. Não tô.
Chuva mesmo, né?
Chuva mesmo.
Chuva mesmo.
Então,
É cinema, né?
Cinema.
Película.
Película. Então a gente começa bem devagarzinho. Conforme for indo para o grave, a gente vai aumentando e a gente vai reproduzir a chuva que a gente fez no filme. Beleza? Então vamos lá. Começa no silêncio e termina no silêncio.
Obrigado.
Esse é o nível 2.
Ó, tem um nível 2, que é fazer de olho fechado, porque a sensação da chuva, ela é maior. Então, quem quiser viagem louca, fecha o olho. Quem quer ficar? A viagem é de cada um. Eu vou fechar o olho. Tá? Não é? Tá livre. O grau da viagem depende de cada um de nós. Tá?
E aí, o que é legal? Se você tiver de olho fechado, como você vai saber a hora de mudar de palma?
É verdade.
Não, mas tudo bem. Isso o grupo vai decidir e a gente vai, tá com os ouvidos atentos. Eu vou estar passando uma colinha aqui, se você quiser dar aquela... Né?
Fecha o olho assim, então.
Né? Então, vamos lá. Te sai do silêncio e volta para o silêncio. Lembrando que a gente começa das palmas agudas, até chegar no toró, muitas palmas graves, e aí a gente vai diminuindo a quantidade para até voltar para a palma aguda, tá bom?
Giba, eu tô encharcado. Cara, a viagem foi tão louca. É louca a parada. É crazy.
Crazy. Totally crazy. E você se ligou que você tem um brinquedo que você já tinha e ele é novo, que você não sabia que você tinha.
Então, fala, como é que tá no Cambridge? E como é que foi o Cambridge Day? Mas foi legal, foi? Sensacional. Uma salva de palmas para a Giba! Ó, Giba,
Sim.
pode subir. Eu acho que ele não vai embora. E estou aqui elocubrando. Vamos fazer outras coisas.
Ok.
Não sei ainda, porque eu vou improvisar, tá? Vou pensar, tá bom? E vamos chamar ele. Uma salva de palmas para a Giba! Ben. A próxima pessoa é Ben e tem um sobrenome, mas que eu vou falar só Ben.
Qual que é o sobrenome?
Ben. Vamos chamar ele. Pera, vou tentar. Como fala sobrenome? Como? É Ben?
Night.
Ben Nights.
Ben Nights.
Você viu? Não precisa nem perguntar.
Very
eu faço bem?
Nights.
Então vamos lá, com vocês, Ben Nights!
É o Ben Nights! É o Ben Nights! É o Ben Nights!
Thank you.
Thank you, too.
Ben.
Okay. Good afternoon, São Paulo. And hi to everyone who's following us online. How are you? Fine. Fine's not good enough. Great. Fantastic. Okay. Now, I'm feeling fantastic because I'm in Brazil. And Brazil is such a wonderful country. I've loved every part of it. This is my first time to São Paulo. I've been around different cities, and I've loved it for 10 days. But I've got one little problem, and that's that every day I get given lots of delicious food, and I'm slowing down every day, and I've got to keep moving now just to burn up the calories. And in fact, I might even try, would you like me to do some of my samba moves? No. You don't want to. If I start doing my samba, someone's going to call a doctor. Must be a medical problem. Okay, so I've got a little task for you now. I want you to do something, and I want you to compare your answers with the person next to you, okay? Are you sitting next to somebody? Have you got someone you can talk to? Okay. Okay, let me just get the clicker. Okay. So when I say, talk to the person next to them, look at them like this. Or maybe not. Okay, just a moment. Now, I'm going to read something to you, and I'm going to read it to you, and I want the first question is, what language am I speaking? Okay, you just have to identify the language. The second question is, what's the main point in what, if you can understand it, what's the main point? Okay, question number one, what language? Second question, what's the main point? So discuss with the person next to you. Are you ready? Okay. Ao longo da educação básica, as aprendizagens essenciais definidas na BNCC devem concorrer para assegurar aos estudantes o desenvolvimento de 10 competências gerais que consubstanciam no âmbito pedagógico os direitos de aprendizagem e desenvolvimento. Yeah. With the person next to you. Okay. What was the language? What was the language? Phew. Okay, good. You recognize the language. What was the main point? Competencias, BNCC, yep. So the BNCC, you know what it is? Yep, so it's your new curriculum framework, and the big thing, and one of the big things in there is the 10 general competencies. And do you know what those are? So it's really important for you as English language teachers, you need to know those 10 competencies. Oh, sorry, that's what I was saying in Portuguese, if you recognize it. And in English, there. And then the 10 general competencies, here they are in English. So what we're going to look at today is how can Cambridge help you with these 10 competencies in the BNCC? Now the first question is, do you want that again? Okay. This is your Instagram moment. I'm going to give you more information later, so don't worry. Okay, first question. Why are they so important? Why does the ministry say you must teach these general competencies as part of English? Well, the first thing is you're preparing your students for their futures. And for their futures, one of the difficulties is that their futures are becoming less predictable. It's more difficult to know what jobs, what skills they need specifically. And so you're needing to develop these general competencies. In fact, I had a quick look in the UK to see what are the fastest growing new jobs in the UK. Have you any idea what they might be? Yeah, YouTubers you would expect. I didn't pick it up, actually. Okay, let me show you the ones. What I want you to do is look at these new jobs that are growing fast and think, which one would you like to do? Lifestyle auditor, robotics engineer, aging solutions consultant, sound good? Traffic flow analyst, drone standards specialist. How about this? 3D food printer chef, cryptocurrency banker, school designer. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Which one would you like to do? Lifestyle auditor, yeah, I quite like that as well. Okay. But it's not just about the future, it's even now. What do employers want from our students? When they graduate and they go to work, what do our employers want? Well, this research from the US found 10 important skills that employers want from your students. The ability to work in a team, ability to make decisions, to communicate with people, to plan and organize, obtain information, analyze data. There's going to be 10 of them if you've got the camera ready. Technical knowledge, proficiency with computer, creating reports, and being able to sell and influence people. Now, if you think about your school timetable, do you see these subjects, these skills on the timetable? Not really. And when you produce a report, do you produce a report with these skills? Not really. So this is the challenge for us in education. How can we develop these really important skills within the school subjects? And that's the challenge for English teachers. But it's not just about employers, it's also about parents. So what do some of you are parents, are you? Put up your hands if you're a parent. Okay. And even if you're not a parent, you know children that you like, yeah? So what I want you to do is to think about that child. What do you want for them in their future? So here's a happy family. And one of the things that they're thinking about is exam results. Every parent wants their children to do well in their exams because exams give you options. The more certificates you have, the more choice. So that's a good thing. But most parents, they don't want their children to become exam-taking machines. They want the school and you as teachers to be developing the whole child. So again, can you just talk to the person next to you and say, when you think about what's the whole child, what does that mean? What do parents really want when they say that? I'll give you 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Okay. Can you shout out any ideas? Soft skills, social skills, yeah, being able to get on with other people. Anything else? Learning how to learn. Okay, let me show you whoops. There we go. When we spoke to parents in Cambridge, we found these were the 6 most popular things. Being sociable with other children, confident in communication, creative and imaginative. Parents want their children to be good at learning. They also want their children to be critical thinkers, because they don't want their children just to believe everything that they read on the internet. They want them to think about it. And they also want their children not just to think about themselves, but themselves as part of a society and to think about the international perspective. So these are the important aspects of a whole child education. Okay, so as teachers, you understand this. You support the idea of teaching general competencies, don't you? Yes, you do. But you have questions. And the first question a lot of teachers have is, well, what am I actually teaching? I know I have to teach critical thinking skills, but what do I actually teach? And I know I need to teach collaboration, but what does that really mean for class? And how can I teach those in my particular class? So I'm teaching a group of 9-year-olds on Monday morning, and I have to teach them, develop their critical thinking skills. What exactly does that mean? And finally, the last question is, how do I find the time to do it? Because I have to use all my lesson time to teach English so they can pass the exams. So how can I teach these other skills? And these are the things that we want at Cambridge to be able to help you with. Now, the first thing we're doing is to develop this life competencies framework. And the point of the framework is to help you understand in more detail what these life competencies are. It's very disturbing to see a picture of you behind as you walk. So to do this, we asked a lot of people. We asked experts from research, from teachers, from Cambridge Assessment, our sister organization, and from international standards such as the OECD. And then we put all of the different skills and competencies into a framework. And at the top level, it's these 6 areas, plus the 3 foundation layers underneath. Now, this is nothing particularly special. You can see similar things anywhere. But it's the next layer of information. So we give you more detail than this. And this, I just want to show you how the Cambridge framework, which is an international framework, links very well to the BNCC. So I think the approach in the BNCC is a good one, and it maps quite closely to the Cambridge one. And I'm going to give you more information on that as well. But take a picture. I like to see you taking pictures. It just reassures me that you're still awake. Okay. So what do we do next? We try to give you more information. Let's talk about creative thinking. What does that mean? So we go into a bit more detail, and we can see, can you read that? Yep. Participating in creative activities, doing things like songs and dance and theatre, play, I mean. Creating new content yourself, and then using new content to solve problems. So these are 3 types of creativity. The same with critical thinking. The first part of critical thinking is understanding and analyzing links between ideas. Then evaluating ideas and arguments. And then synthesizing ideas into a new idea. So these are critical thinking skills. Now, I'm going to go through these, but actually, you've got the answers, you've got this information in your bag. Okay? If you look in your bag, you've got a booklet. Can you take it out? That's the one. That's very thoughtful, thank you. It looks like this, purple color. Thank you. Okay, and if you turn to page 5, you got page 5? You can see this is the framework. It's a different design, but it's the same framework. So what this is giving you is a bit more understanding, but we're going to give you even more detail, even more clarity. What we've done is we've taken each of those areas and we've produced a booklet for each area with even more detail and with teaching tips on how you can teach them. So if you go to that website, cambridge.org/CLCF. What does CLCF mean? Yeah, good. Right, you're sharp. Your critical thinking skills are active. Whoops, wrong way. If you go there, you can download all of these booklets, and it's got lots of help for you. Yeah, pleasure. Done. Okay, so let's look at an example here. Let's look at communication. And when we look at communication, we can see there are 3 competencies under there. The first one is being able to use appropriate language for different contexts. And this is not just when you're learning another language, even in your first language. When children are learning Portuguese, they have to learn how to adjust their language for different people. If you're talking to a friend, you speak in a different way to if you're talking to your boss. And everybody has to learn that. And it's the same when you're learning a second language. You have to learn those skills. The second thing is you have to manage conversations, knowing how to handle and to encourage and to control a conversation. And then the third one is you need to be able to participate, communicating with confidence and clarity. And that might be a presentation like this, but even just in a group, in a meeting. Have you been in a meeting where you've struggled to get your idea across, to communicate? Yeah, we all have, and we know it's quite a difficult skill to be able to participate in a meeting with confidence and clarity. So what we're looking at here is these are life skills which you can also teach when you're teaching English. Okay, let's take one of those, managing conversations. And what we've done is to take it to another layer of detail by producing can-do statements. And can-do statements describe what somebody can do, what a student can do for this competency. And these are a few examples. You can see one example here is listens while others are talking. And that sounds very basic, but children need to learn that. In fact, a lot of adults need to learn that as well. You probably have colleagues who still haven't learned this one. Yes, it's this. And also interrupts others politely, can use simple techniques to start, maintain, and close conversations, paraphrases what others are saying to help communication. That's an important part of a conversation. Okay, so what we've done is to put even more information with can-do statements, competencies, and relating those to the BNCC general competencies. Are you able to scan the QR code? If you can, do that. If you can't, if you're like me and you're not very good at using a phone, there's a web link here, bit.ly/BNCC and CLCF. And if you go there, it'll give you a document which shows you the relationship between the Cambridge framework and the BNCC. Can I move on? Have you got it? No? Okay. Okay, I'm moving on. Moving on. Okay. So the point I want to make here is that language skills, when you're teaching language skills as a teacher, as a language teacher, you're teaching things like question forms, vocabulary, grammar, present perfect, pronunciation. Those are your language skills. But you can also at the same time be developing your students' life skills. So communication, of course, is about language, but it's also about skills which you need even in your first language. We need to learn how to start conversations, how to develop conversations, and how to negotiate meaning. What we're looking at here is how can we integrate those in an English lesson. The other thing to bear in mind is that these look very different at different stages of education. So when we talk about critical thinking, is critical thinking the same if you're 5 years old or if you're 18? No, thank you. It's not. It's quite different. So how do we describe what you need to teach at the different stages? Well, what we've done is we've divided the learning journey, the education journey, into 5 stages. Pre-primary or kindergarten, primary, secondary, higher education, university, and adults learning at work. And then we've described what people can do at each stage for each competency. So this gives you a very detailed picture of what you need to teach. Let's take an example. So social responsibilities was one of the areas, and one of the competencies in there is taking an active role in a group, including leadership. And this is something as teachers we want to develop in our students. We want them to develop the skills of leadership, to know when to take a leadership role and how to do it. So how can we do that at pre-primary? It's quite difficult to think of that. So one idea that we've suggested here is when your students volunteer to perform tasks like tidying up toys or helping a younger child, what you're doing then, when you're encouraging them to do that, is helping to develop the beginning of leadership skills. To volunteer is the first step. Similarly, when we go to primary level, we can encourage our students to volunteer to try out new tasks. And every time you're doing that as a teacher, you're helping to develop their leadership, their potential leadership skills. At secondary, it might be something like this. In a group, making a consultative decision. Because that is one of the signs of good leadership, is the ability to consult with people in a group. So when you can encourage your students to develop that, you're really helping them with their life skills. With university, it might be taking the responsibility for the group. At work, it might be taking responsibility for pursuing new opportunities. So what we can see here is we're taking a skill of leadership and we're looking at how to develop that at each stage so that you in the school are building up their skills in a systematic way. Are you following me? Yep, great. Here's another little example. So we're talking about learning to learn, important skill. What about pre-primary? Well, one part of learning to learn are just practical skills for learning. At pre-primary, that includes things, can you read that? some of it. Let me read out a couple. Holds a pencil appropriately. Follows instructions in class routines. Understands and communicates age-appropriate vocabulary. So these are all things that you need to develop in your students at kindergarten's age. And when you are doing that, that's your contribution to developing their learning skills. So you can use this as a way to think, what do I need to do at this stage? Okay, so we've got areas, competencies, and then can-do statements. Now I've got a little task for you. You can see on this grid that there is 6 areas and 5 stages. And I've got 6 can-do statements. But the can-do statements are in the wrong place. So your task is to put them in the right place. Do you think you can do that? Not sure. You can do it. You can do it. Let me give you, should I do the first one as an example? Yes, please. Okay. So the first one is find sources of information and help. So a source of information might be a library, using a library, or using an online dictionary. At what stage do you expect students to master that? Yeah, secondary. It's a kind of secondary thing. You might do a little bit at primary, but mainly secondary. And which area of competency is it? Learning to learn. Dun, da, da. Yeah, learning to learn, secondary. Can you do the same for the other 5? How long should I give you? 1 minute? Yeah, 1 minute. Okay? Okay? Right. What about number 2? Builds good working relationships with colleagues. Which area do you think that is? Collaboration, yeah. And which stage do you think it is? Colleagues, with colleagues? At work, yeah, yeah. Well, let's check. Yeah. Number 3, follows school rules, including golden agreements, and makes positive choices. Yeah, it feels primary, doesn't it? And which area do you think that is? Social responsibilities, yeah, it's understanding their responsibilities in a group. And then the next one is number 4, puts across a point of view persuasively, backing up with evidence, anticipating counter-arguments. Yeah, I think it could be 2 things. It could be, I think it's communication, but somebody said critical thinking, and there's a little bit of critical thinking there. Which level, which stage? Higher, yeah, I think higher education. And then number 5, participates in pretend activities and imaginative games. Pre-primary, kindergarten, yeah, I hope. Maybe at work, I don't know. And which area is it? Creative thinking, yeah. And then, oops, sorry, I pressed the, oh no. Okay. Sorts and classifies objects. And so which one do you think that is? Yeah. It's creative thinking. No, it's not creative thinking. It's critical thinking. Because one of the aspects of critical thinking is being able to classify things, to sort things out. That's the first basis of analysis. And it might be primary, it could be secondary. Could even be pre-primary, yeah. Okay, so we've looked at, that's what the framework is. And the intention is that this should be useful to you as teachers. So how can you use it? Well, the first thing is we designed it for lots of people. We designed it for people who are producing curriculum for the learning objectives, for people who are designing materials. So here in Cambridge, we design our course books now by looking at the framework and to design activities which develop these skills. If you're trying to assess your students, you can use the can-do statements to help you assess, are they able to do this or not? So just an informal teacher assessment. And then what about teaching? What can teachers do? Well, I'm going to tell you different things. The first thing is you can notice existing opportunities. So when you're teaching now, there are lots of opportunities to develop these life skills, and the framework helps you to notice those. Let me give you some examples. Actually, if you look in your booklet on page 8 and 9, can you look in your booklet, page 8 and 9? It's the same as here, but it's just a bit clearer in the booklet. And these are just examples of quite typical lessons. And what I'm just showing you is that they give you opportunities for developing life skills. If you look at the first one on page 8, you can see this is about matching the names of jobs with the qualities, the personal characteristics of people. So which job matches which characteristic? Now, on the surface, what kind of activity is this in language teaching? It's a vocabulary thing. So you're using this to teach vocabulary. Whoops, sorry. But you can also use this as an opportunity for critical thinking, for your students to be thinking, what are the characteristics of this job and what are the different personality types? How can we match those up? That's a form of critical thinking. So it's not here, but you can use it as an opportunity. I think there's another nice example is on page 9. It's section 5, question 5. So the students have to present their ideas to each other. And in the task, it's giving the students some questions to give feedback to other students. And that's part of being collaborative, giving good feedback. So this exercise is helping your students to give good feedback. Okay, let me give you another example. This exercise here on the screen, it comes from the book that Mark Ibbotson was telling you about, Evolve. And in this, they have to discuss, or they're listening to someone discussing whether people are leaving the countryside for the city. Is it a good thing or not? Is that a question in Brazil about leaving the countryside to come to the city? Yeah, a little bit, sometimes. Yeah, okay. And this is a listening comprehension task with people discussing that question. Now, when your students are discussing this question, that's an opportunity to develop collaboration skills. How can we help them develop collaboration skills? Well, we can look at one skill in particular, which is when you listen respectfully and respond constructively to someone else's opinion. That's a collaboration skill. And you can use an English language discussion to practice this skill. Let me give you an example. You can teach them the language for doing this. When you are responding constructively, there are 4 things you need to do. You need to build on other people's ideas. So someone says something, and you build on their idea. Secondly, you need to acknowledge other people's points of view. Thirdly, especially if you disagree with someone, a polite way of disagreeing is to suggest an alternative. And finally, maybe you're doing an activity and you need to stop somebody. So how can you politely interrupt them when you're short of time? So what we want to look at now is, can you teach your students some phrases which help them do these things? If we look at the first one, build on others' ideas. Any phrases that you can use? I'll give you an example to get you started. Yes, and another thing is, yes, that's true. And I also think, okay, can you now, working together with the person next to you, can you think of some phrases for doing the other aspects of collaboration? Yeah? I'll give you 35 seconds this time. Okay. Acknowledge others' point of view. I see, yeah, okay, something like that. Or, yes, that's a good point. Yes, I can see what you're saying. Suggest alternatives. How about? Yeah, something like that, yeah. Or, have you thought about? Another idea could be, does that sound polite? Yeah, I think so. It's quite nice. And then interrupting someone. Okay, can we move on now? We've only got 10 minutes. Can we look at the next point? So you can see here, using a question makes it more polite. Using we makes it feel inclusive. It's a polite way of doing this. So what you're doing here, you're teaching English, but at the same time, you're teaching them how to be more collaborative, how to respond constructively, positively, politely to other students. Okay, what I want you to do now is a mini discussion. And I've got this question here. Teaching is the most important profession in the world. That was my discussion question. But when I used this somewhere else in Brazil, they said, that's not a discussion, that's just obvious. It's a fact. So I'm going to change the discussion question. The discussion question is, okay, teachers are going to be replaced by robots in the future. Okay. There. What I want you to do now, I'm going to give you 1 minute and 30 seconds to discuss that topic using every phrase on the screen, okay? You have to use every phrase in the screen. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Okay. 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 I'm going to interrupt you. It's wonderful. It's lovely. I can hear people saying, yes, I can see your point. That's really good. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, here's another example. This again comes from Mark Ibbetson's book, Evolve. And it's about pets. And this is about people getting a bit crazy about pets. Does that happen in Brazil? Okay. So Yeah, so this is a good discussion question probably for Brazil. Are people a bit crazy about their pets? Now, what I like about this activity is that it's a recording of people discussing the question, arguing about are people too crazy about their pets? But it isn't done as a comprehension activity. There isn't a number of questions, true, false questions, or multiple choice questions. That would be your typical listening comprehension activity. But instead, what they've done is to focus on the examples used in the arguments. The two people who are arguing about it, what are the examples that they give? And then it asks the listeners, the students, to evaluate those examples. So of course, they can only do this if they understand what they're listening to. So it is a language lesson, and it's a language development. But it's also teaching them that when you argue, a key point in arguing is the quality of your examples. So this is a way that you can teach the language and critical thinking at the same time. Okay, second way you can use the framework to help your students, and that is to make your students think about the skills that they're developing. They can use the can-do statements to become more aware of the skills they need to develop. Okay, this is an example from the book that Michael Tomlinson was talking about, called Power Up. And do you remember he talked about missions? Yeah, these kind of little projects. And there are different steps to a mission. This is a mission where the students need to create their own restaurant, imaginary restaurant. And the first step is this little task here. They have to choose a name and a description for their restaurant. They then have to design and prepare a restaurant sign. And then they have to, in their group, they need to present their ideas to the other students. So can you, talking to the person next to you, can you identify which life competencies they could be developing during this activity? Competencies, the life skills, yeah. So, okay, can you suggest some skills, competencies? Collaboration, creative thinking, yeah. Maybe communication, because they have to explain to the students. So when I was looking at this, I thought it could be any of those, and maybe some more. So these are opportunities. But how can you help your students to think about the skills they're developing? Well, let's take one of those, managing the sharing of tasks. So when you're collaborating, one of the skills you need to have, your students need to have, is the ability to share out tasks in a group. Yeah? Now, what you can do here with your class is to divide it into 3 activities. They need to list the tasks that they have to do. They need to make sure that everybody has a task, and then afterwards they need to say how well it went, how good their efforts were. So you can explain to your students that this is what they need to do. And then at the end, you can ask them, did you do something? Did you help anyone with their task? How well did your team do? And this is, of course, it's in English. Maybe, you, depending on the age of your students, you might need to mix it a bit with Portuguese. But what you're doing here is mixing the development of language with developing their awareness of the skills that they need to develop. Here's another example. So one of the things you want your students to develop are strategies, learning strategies, for example, for learning vocabulary. That's a learning to learn skill. And this is an example from another book which uses spidergrams. Do you use spidergrams at all? Yep, some of you might do. It's a nice way of just revising, practicing vocabulary. You take a word, you ask the students to add different words that are connected, associated. Then you ask the students to compare their spidergram with someone else's spidergram. And it's just an easy way to revise vocabulary. But how can you help your students to think about their learning strategies? Well, one thing you can do is to share with them the can-do statements. You can write them yourself. So here's a little grid, and you ask them to fill it in. Can you put new words? Do you put new words in a vocab list? Do you revise your words? Do you use strategies to remember them and add pronunciation and vocab to them? So if you do this at the beginning of a course, maybe they're kind of a bit mixed, maybe they don't really do it. Then you do it again at the end of the course, and what you should see is that they have a growing awareness that they need to develop these competencies, these skills. So using the can-do statements, you're making them think about their learning. One more example. This is a manifesto for good discussion. Do you understand the word manifesto? Yep, it's the same word in Portuguese. Okay. So this is where schools ask their students to produce their own manifesto for good behavior. In this case, for having good discussions. So this is a particular school, and they ask their students to write 5 ground rules for classroom discussions. And I love this example. It comes from a school called School 21. These are their ground rules, which the students wrote. Everyone should have a chance to talk. Everyone's ideas should be carefully considered, etc. And it's a really nice way of getting students to think about how do they work together, how do they collaborate and communicate. In fact, this school, it's in London, and it's in the east part of London, which is a poorer part of London. And most of these students, they have come from other countries. English isn't their first language. They're struggling a little bit. And this school has turned them around by focusing on discussion skills. So every lesson, whether it's maths or history or biology, they teach through discussion. And it means that the students are really good at articulating, very good at managing conversations. And if you go in there, it's really quite beautiful. You can see like groups of 8, 9-year-olds sitting on around a table on a project. And you'll hear them say things like, yes, I can see your point of view, but have you thought about, and it sounds so grown up and so polite. It's quite inspiring to go there. So I strongly recommend, if you go to this website, www.school21.org.uk, they've got videos there of how they do things, and it's really inspiring. Okay, let me move on. Extend activities. So this is another way you can develop life skills in an English language classroom. You can take a language lesson and just extend it a little bit. Okay, so this example is creative thinking. One of the ways that we develop creative thinking is by asking our students to respond imaginatively to pictures, music, things like that. And this example I saw a teacher teaching this lesson, which was about planning a birthday party. And normally when you're teaching a lesson in English about planning, what's the language you're practicing? Future. Yeah, it tends to be future. It tends to be going to future. We're going to do this. Yeah. But then the teacher kind of extended the activity, took this picture, which is a nice picture because it's got a bit of emotion in it, and then asked the students to imagine that they are the girl in the picture. And then to think, what's your name? What's happening? What do you feel? What's going to happen next? What do you want to happen? And then ask the students to come up with answers to that in English. It's an English lesson. But what I love about this activity is that there are no right answers. You can say anything, and you have to use your imagination. And students really respond positively to this. Then the teacher took it another step and asked them to imagine the party that they're planning and to think of the 5 skills. Whoops. First, what can they see when they think of that party? What can they hear in the party? What can they taste? That's all quite easy. Then you get to what can you feel and what can you smell in a party. So that's where the students really come out with their imagination. And it's great. Okay, one more example of extending. When you're learning to learn, one of the important skills in learning to learn is reflecting on your learning. Did you actually learn something? What did you learn? And a lot of courses have got can-do statements at the end of a unit. Have you seen this in your courses? Yeah. So you get these can-do statements, and what do the students need to do? What do they do with this? They just tick it. Yeah. And when they tick it, does that mean they can do it? Not necessarily, as someone said. Not necessarily. Because it's very easy to tick a box. It's good. It's a good thing because it's making them think about it. But maybe we can extend it a little bit. And in the book that Mark was talking about, Evolve, they extended this by adding a prove it section. So those poor students that ticked it, then they have to prove it. And it's just a nice way of taking it a step further, making them really think, have I actually learnt it or not quite? Okay, last point. When you're using the framework to teach life competencies, it's important to be selective. Let me give you an example. It's a map of a city. Anybody recognize the city? London. Yeah, it's London. Now, this is a tourist map. And in the tourist map, it's got 20 interesting places to visit. Now, imagine you're in London. You've got 1 day to visit. How do you respond to 20 different things? Do you say, oh my God, I've got 20 things to go to. I've got 10 minutes to go here, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes there. Do you panic? Or do you say, I've got 1 day, I can do 2 things. I'm going to choose the 2 most interesting things. Is it the first or the second? Second, yeah. And it's the same with the framework. There are lots of competencies, lots of skills. You don't have time to teach everything. So what you have to do is to choose which are the most important for your students. Let me quickly do something. Can you take your booklet again, the booklet? Can you turn to page 14. Go for it, page 14. We'll do this quickly. If you see, there's an exercise, there's a lesson there, and the lesson is about producing a leaflet. Your students need to produce a leaflet which is about giving guidance for being safe online. So first question is, what are the kind of competencies that you could develop in that lesson? What are the life skills? What are the opportunities for life skills in that? Can I just give you 30 seconds to think about it, talk to the person next to you. What opportunities are there for life skills in that lesson? Okay. Any suggestions? Yeah, a bit of creative thinking, because they have to think of some new ideas and ways of presenting it in a leaflet. Anything else? Communication, yeah, particularly that, what's appropriate? How do you phrase things for a leaflet? It's a different style of communication for a leaflet. A bit of critical thinking, because they're having to put together ideas from different places. Let me just show you what I thought. Communication, appropriate language, critical thinking, synthesizing ideas, creative thinking, and also at the end of the lesson, they have to reflect on how well they've done it. So those are 4 things. What I want you to do now is to think of a class that you teach. Think of a particular group of students, and I want you to think, if I was teaching them this lesson, and I could choose only one of these things, you can only choose one, which one of these would you choose? For your group of students that's in your mind, which of those skills are most important for them to learn next? Okay. Again, talk to share with the person next to you. Which one would you choose? There's no right answer. It depends on your students. Okay. Does anybody want to share their ideas? Which one did you choose? Which one did you choose? Critical thinking. Uh-huh. And do you want to say why you thought that? Yeah, that's a nice point. The lady here was saying for her students, she wants them to focus on critical thinking because that helps them to think about everything else as well. So it's a really good basic skill. Anything else you chose? What did you choose? Communication. Okay. Great. Okay. I'm going to sum up now. So, if you're teaching English and you want to develop their life skills, which you do, you can use the Cambridge Life Competencies Framework to help you. And you can use it in 4 ways. First of all, you can use it to think about where are the opportunities to develop. Secondly, you can use it to encourage your students to think about what are the skills that they are developing. Thirdly, you can take an activity and just extend it a bit by looking at the framework for different skills. And finally, remember to be selective. Don't try to do everything. Just think what's important, what's most important for your students. And that's everything I want to say. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Amém.
I've put my email address there. If you've got any questions or if you want a copy of the slides or anything like that, just send me an email. I'll get back to you. Oh, sorry, it's gone. Sorry.
Dá uma pergunta.
I'm sorry we didn't have time for my samba moves. Next time. Yeah.
Pode?
Oh.
Finish.
Finish.
Uma salva de palmas. Não.
Ah, você veio também, meu. Vem também.
Olha, eu vou desabafar para vocês. Não é todo dia que eu faço um evento em inglês. Então, para saber que terminou, está sendo bastante difícil para mim. Então, assim, vocês aqui da ponta, na próxima vez me ajuda. Fala, César, start. E aí eu vou, tá bom? Me ajuda,
Fala
porque eu não
como,
sei.
César?
Start. César. Eu falei que eu vou falar espanhol.
Ok.
É o seguinte,
Hard.
vamos continuar falando sobre os Celebration Stories. Põe no vídeo exatamente. Cleide, olha, de verdade, assistam esses vídeos, é muito legal. A Cleide, na verdade, ela é eu vou definir como uma grande guerreira. Ela é professora de Altamira do Pará. Tem alguém do Pará aqui?
Aí, ó.
Tem? Do Pará?
Ali,
E o jambo treme.
Você é do Pará? Você é do Pará? Conhece a Altamira? Do Pará, não?
Ele
Só
foi
viu o quê?
Ele foi lá nascer.
Ele é de lá.
Ah! E é o seguinte, ela com... Não vou falar o spoiler, por que eu tô falando espanhol?
Tá multilingual.
Ai, meu Deus do
Tá
céu.
fazendo o download errado, César.
Ela é de uma família extremamente humilde e a mãe não tinha condições de sustentar. Então, ela com 10 anos, ela começou a trabalhar e com 12 anos, primeiro 10 anos como faxineira e com 12 anos, ela foi convidada por uma família norte-americana para ser babá. E aí foi a primeira vez que ela teve contato com a língua inglesa, né? E aí ela começou a aprender dessa maneira. E aí ela se tornou professora de inglês, mas não vou falar qual foi o percurso dessa guerreira. Assistam, tá bom? E ela fala muito sobre colaboração, como o Ben também falou, e o que a gente vai fazer agora é uma improvisação com o Leandro Costa, que tem muito a ver com colaboração, que é o seguinte, pessoal de casa, mande agora uma profissão e é engraçado, o pessoal de casa, eu olho para pessoal de casa...
Olha para trás da janela.
Exatamente. Pessoal aí da Bela Vista, imediatamente dê um objeto e uma profissão, que isso vai ser importante na improvisação, tá?
Escrevam objetos, profissões aí no live, né, no chat.
Olha,
Facebook, do YouTube.
você vê que ele tem
Chat,
outra idade, né?
chat.
Ele fala agora chat, live, chat.
Tá acabando minhas palavras em inglês.
É o seguinte, e aí, por que colaboração? Porque mais do que desafiar, o Leandro vai me ajudar, vai me colaborar para eu descobrir algumas coisas, e vocês também vão ajudar, dizendo quando eu acertei a palavra que eu tenho que descobrir. Para isso, eu não vou poder saber a profissão, objeto, e você vai poder fazer o que quiser que eu não... Tá
Perfeito,
bom?
mas alguém precisa garantir de que você não vai...
Exatamente. Quem
sai.
poderia me levar
Acompanhar o
até
César pra
lá e para garantir que eu não posso escutar o que vai acontecer aqui? Quem pode me levar?
Alguém de fiscal.
Ó, vamos fazer o seguinte,
Bater papão.
eu vou devagar. Você pode me levar? Ah, gente, ela vai me levar. Qual que é o seu nome? Quem? Naira.
Naira.
Por que você está assim? Vamos. Né? Ela quis, mas ficou com vergonha. Ela está assim, ó. Não. Naira, ó. Vamos aberta para o mundo, Naira. Uma salva de palmas para a Naira. Ó. Ai, verdade. Ó, você tem que ter... Eu não posso escutar mesmo. Tá bom?
Isso, bate papão, conheça. Pede para explicar o Chubi para você.
Escuta as crônicas de Naira.
De Naira, olha só. Gente, Naira, né? Eu vou falar um pouquinho mais baixo porque é verdade, assim. O César não pode escutar. A gente vai fazer uma cena aqui. E ele vai ter que adivinhar 3 coisas. A primeira coisa, eu vou pedir para vocês, que o resto a gente pediu para as pessoas de casa. Eu preciso que vocês me deem um gesto. Um gesto, é isso. Gesto. Isso. Façam esses gestos. Gestos. Gente, todo...
Mas não é os que ele mostrou. Ele mostrou, teve uns assim.
Ó, eu gostei muito de um... Obrigado quem colaborou. A gente já fez bastante esse.
Nossa,
bastante
ó,
esse.
ali rolou um...
Mas esse aqui, ó...
mano.
Esse aqui é novidade. Esse a gente já fez também. Mas eu vou pegar esse aqui. Obrigado, viu? Ó, então é o seguinte. César, o gesto que ele tem de adivinhar é esse aqui, tá? E a produção, quem está com a profissão e o objeto? Quem pode falar pra gente? Cadê? O pessoal da produção? A gente está aguardando, é isso?
Senão a gente pega daqui.
Senão eu vou pegar aqui. Vou esperar, gente. Bom, enquanto a gente espera, conta a história do...
Vou contar como é que meus pais se conheceram.
Muito boa essa história, Álvaro.
Meu pai chama Geraldo, minha mãe Marília, Minas. Meu pai de Conceição do Mato Dentro, interior
Nossa,
de
que
Minas.
legal.
E aí ele fazia supletivo, minha mãe era professora de biologia, olha que legal. Sou filho de educador também, né? Tanto professor junto aqui. Minha mãe professora de biologia, é muito interessante essa
Muito
história.
interessante, muito interessante. Mas, o Beto, a gente espera
Já
mais?
foi?
A gente espera mais. Bom,
Aí,
é isso, então.
olha quem chegou.
Aqui, olha ela aqui. Não tem microfone, né? Qual que é o objeto? A profissão. Deixa eu ver aqui. Tem carpinteiro, astronauta, vendedor, professores. Eu vou escolher carpinteiro, tá? E martelo, foguete, pasta. Pasta. Então é o seguinte, a profissão do César é carpinteiro. O objeto que ele tem que acertar é pasta. E o gesto... E como é que ele vai saber que ele acertou? A gente vai estar fazendo a cena. Quando ele acertar, vocês aplaudem muito. Muito, como se fosse o dia mais feliz da vida de vocês. Vocês vão ver que vai ser. Tá bom? Então, carpinteiro, pasta e... Pode entrar, César.
Muito obrigado. Olha, correndo aqui. Peraí. Umas palmas
Tô vendo
pra
ritmado,
simpatia. Olha aqui, ó.
Naira. Palmas pra Naira.
Pode sentar. Ela só perguntava, o que eu tenho que fazer? Falei, conversar comigo.
Ai, que legal.
Vamos lá,
César,
o que eu faço?
é o seguinte, vamos fazer uma cena, você tem que adivinhar. Sua profissão, um objeto e um gesto nessa ordem. Profissão, objeto e gesto. Profissão, objeto e gesto.
E como é que eu vou saber se eu acertei?
Eles vão aplaudir vocês. Você. Como se fosse você
Não
o
vejo a
artista
hora.
preferido de cada um deles.
Vamos lá, tá bom.
Vamos lá?
Boa sorte pra mim, vou precisar.
Com aquela contagem.
Profissão?
Profissão, objeto e gesto.
Tá bom.
Objeto e gesto.
Profissão, objeto e gesto.
Nossa senhora.
Você viu que tá empolgado. Gente, pode fingir que tá achando... Não tem problema de ser falso.
Ô chefe, ainda bem que o senhor chegou. Tô com um problema aqui que eu não tô conseguindo muito resolver.
Você sabe que uma das funções do chefe é resolver os problemas das pessoas que não conseguem resolver os problemas, senão não seria chefe.
Exatamente. É que eu fui além do limite da minha capacidade. Dá uma olhada, senhor. Segura a mesa aqui, ó. Ó.
E você viu? Olha como eu sou um chefe democrático, eu até segurei a mesa. Tá. Não sou aquele chefe que fala, vai pra lá, vai pra cá.
Não, senhor, ó. Só, então o que aconteceu?
Olha aqui.
Fiz tudo do jeito que o senhor mandou, mas ela continua balançando. Não tem jeito.
Não, porque você usou o maquinário, né? Você sabe que eu sou um dos maiores especialistas no que você sabe que eu sou especialista. Você sabe disso? Você sabe
eu
disso.
sei que o senhor sabe que eu sei.
Você usou martelo?
Eu usei o martelo.
Usou prego? Você usou o material necessário para a execução do que eu pedi para você?
Olha, eu tô espantado com o conhecimento do senhor.
É impressionante.
Tão rápido assim. Eu usei tudo, ó. Usei o prego, o martelo, a fresa.
Minha família inteira trabalhou nesse ramo.
Aí eu sei, e pra mim...
Vovô foi um grande especialista nesse ramo. Papai, mamãe, e não poderia ser diferente, eu também. Eu fico até emocionado em imaginar a minha profissão. É por isso que eu não falo, eu fico embargado aqui, porque vem uma emoção, eu falo, não. Olha, eu não sabia que eu ficaria tão emocionado com o que eu faço.
Nossa senhora, o senhor é um espelho pra mim, assim, porque eu também quero ficar emocionado com o que eu faço.
Não, mas,
Porque eu tenho orgulho de trabalhar pro senhor, que é de uma família tão tradicional, né?
Sim, nós trabalhamos com todo tipo de madeira.
Que bom.
Não trabalhamos com ferro.
Só os pregos é de ferro.
Só os pregos de ferro.
E o martelo, que vai na
martelo.
ponta? É o martelo. E a serra, acho que também é de ferro, é que eu não sei nada
Não,
disso.
e todo
o senhor
mundo
é
falava
especialista.
assim, ô arquiteto. Eu falo, não sou arquiteto.
O senhor é humilde.
Não sou arquiteto. Não sou eu falando, não, arquiteto, ou engenheiro. Eu falo, não sou engenheiro.
Porque arquiteto faz coisa de cimento. O senhor faz coisa de cimento?
Não.
Não.
Eu, na verdade, as pessoas me confundem. O engenheiro aqui tá falando, não, eu sou apenas humildemente um carpinteiro. Mas isso, uma das virtudes da minha família, humildade. Humildade. Esses aplausos para mim não significa apenas para minha família, muito obrigado.
Bom, mas o que eu queria mostrar para o senhor... Deixa eu abrir aqui o projeto.
Opa!
Porque o senhor é carpinteiro, mas o senhor desenhou, né?
Olha, a caneta está aqui.
Ah, está aqui. Excelente.
A lapiseira está aqui também.
Lapiseira, claro.
A borracha também está aqui.
Que maravilha.
E temos aqui pincel, caso você queira colorir, tá? Temos também lápis de nanquim. Nanquim. E também temos aqui o estojo, fala o objeto que eu te dou.
Chefe, o caso, eu vou ter que falar para o senhor, é que eu não sei como organizar mais aqui a oficina de carpintaria, porque tem tanto objeto.
Não, sabe
que eu não sei onde guardar.
Temos caixas.
Mas, chefe, o que acontece é que as pessoas estão ligando, as pessoas.
Claro, no telefone.
Estão ligando no telefone. Aí fala assim, vem aqui pra ver. Aí eu tenho que pegar tudo isso. E eu vou levar uma caixa? Não consigo. No transporte público eu não consigo levar uma caixa.
Meu querido funcionário, eu penso em você, desde quando eu chego aqui na empresa, falei, esse funcionário vai seguir meu exemplo. Temos aqui uma mochila.
Mas
Não, uma mochila que não serve pra nada, tá em cima do objeto. Eu pego a mochila aqui, não tá.
Se o senhor diz que serve, é porque serve, mas eu vou falar a verdade.
Diga.
Por mais que eu queira ser humilde e aceite usar uma mochila, o meu sonho mesmo era parecer um executivo.
Sim.
Aquele executivo da carpintaria que usa um terno.
Sim.
Que usa um terno.
Funcionário.
E carrega com um terno. E uma gravata aí na mão dele.
Sim.
E no braço um terno.
Você tá claro.
Mas no braço dele, ele carrega as coisas. Pego tudo, ponho dentro.
Aqui, ó. Essa mala 007.
Uau! Incrível.
Ela foi usada com meu pai. Essa pochete você não vai usar pra nada. Não pode usar pochete.
Não, calma, eu vou ficar com a mala, Vamos ver o que tem aqui dentro.
Vamos.
Nossa, quanta coisa.
Sim.
O seu pai levava papel?
Usava tudo que precisava.
Tudo.
Ele era um homem assim, precisa de uma coisa, ele tinha dentro dessa mala,
Mas o que ele tinha mesmo era um sorriso bonito, né?
De empatia, carisma.
Dá pra ver o sorriso, dá pra ver que ele cuidava do sorriso, ó.
Sim.
Uma escova de dente. Olha, chefe, eu aprendo tanto com o senhor. Porque isso aqui, só escova, serve pra quê?
Eu vou dizer assim, de vez de chamar o meu papai, eu falava assim, o senhor do bom hálito. Isso. É isso, vai lá. Entendi a dica, é que eu não tenho vocabulário. Vou falar com a minha esposa, um minuto só.
Fala com você.
Alô?
Oi, amor.
Oi, querida, um minuto só, viu? Fala.
Olha, tô indo pra fazenda agora, quero saber se você vai, que eu tô preocupado. O caseiro ligou, tá falando lá que tá tendo um problema com a vaca, que a vaca não pasta. A vaca não pasta, não sei o que eu faço, amor. A vaca não pasta.
Amor, primeiro, te amo. Antes de qualquer coisa, eu te amo. Te amo. Você me liga sempre nas horas mais adequadas, tá? Eu não tenho como te agradecer, mas muita paciência, ordena e vai com carinho, tá? Que ela vai pastar.
Acho que eu vou ordenhar.
Isso.
Beijo, amor.
Ai, meu amor. É que eu falo inglês, querida. A palavra em português não tá vindo. Tá, querida? É o seguinte.
O senhor me desculpe, eu devia ter pedido pro senhor dar um close-up na pasta, mas...
Não, por favor. Aqui está a sua pasta. Olha,
eu acho que eu tô pronto.
Você é do coração.
Sabe, chefe, eu acho que eu tô pronto para sair por aí e desbravar novos mercados.
Primeiro,
eu acho que eu vou expandir as fronteiras da Gouveias Mercenary para além do território nacional.
Funcionário, queria tanto saber seu nome para deixar de chamar você de funcionário.
Eu não ligo.
Olhe para o horizonte.
O senhor me chama de funcionário, eu me sinto funcional.
Boa sorte.
Eu só vou precisar que o senhor pegue pra mim o meu passaporte. É que eu sou baixo e ele ficou ali na prateleira lá em cima. Isso, sobe. Aí, deu, acabou a escada. Isso. Ele tá aí bem aí perto. Procura, tá aí perto, não, tá perto. É só pegar ele, é só.
Que Cristo fez isso?
É só. Não, com as duas mãos o senhor pode. Cuidado, o senhor pode se machucar. Com as duas mãos o senhor pode se machucar. O passaporte é pequeno, pode pegar com uma mão só.
Pera, bateram palma porque eu fiz ou por compaixão?
As pessoas aqui estão com paixão do senhor. Mas pode pegar, ele está em cima. Uma mão só. César Gouveia, senhoras e senhores.
Gente!
Era aqui, ó.
Quem que fez esse movimento tão criativo?
Foi ele ali, ó.
Olha só. Que
não
legal.
foi novo? Porque
Muito.
Teve os clássicos.
Muito sensacional,
os clássicos.
gente. E todo dia você chega, e esse movimento você faz todo dia diário, seu, não? Eu não tenho o que fazer, você... né? Vamos aprender inglês, é isso? Que demais, não. Ó, mora em São Paulo?
Não.
Ah, senão ia ser meu professor, né?
Você não achou ainda um em São Paulo ainda?
Não achei ainda, não achei.
Vai acontecer.
Gente, é o seguinte, vamos chamar a próxima convidada e depois voltaremos com Giba do Barbatuques. Com vocês, Samantha! Pretty woman, walking down the street, pretty woman, pretty woman. Olha a letra, olha. Mira, a letra, vai, letra.
Lyrics. Pretty woman, listen to the lyrics.
Down the street, pretty woman. Agora. Pretty woman. Agora. Fala, nós fizemos em homenagem a você, Samantha.
I do with two
Music.
a music homenage.
Homenagem. Homenagem à tua.
Homemade.
Sim, homenagem.
What is fun on
Homenagem de
Homenage.
como é coração?
From my heart.
From my heart.
My heart.
Molto obrigada.
Genial.
Thank you, Samantha.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Sim.
Isso.
Congratulations.
Parabéns.
Congratulations.
Parabéns.
Conversation, my conversation.
Sim, perfeito.
Hola, Sao Paulo. Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Are you having a good day? Fantastic. Okay, my name's Samantha. I'm British. I come from the middle of England, Leicestershire. But I've actually been living in Madrid, in Spain, for the last 20 years. And this is my first visit to Brazil. I'm having a really good time. It's a fantastic place. I've been up to Belém, Fortaleza, Recife, and now with you in Sao Paulo. Okay, I wanted to ask you a favor. Could you help me say hello to everybody watching at home? Okay, so after 3, we'll just shout hello really loudly, okay? 1, in Portuguese. Dois, 3. Okay, do you think they heard that? Okay, fantastic. So, that's a little bit about me. I'd like to find out about you too. Could you put your hands up, those of you who work in primary, teaching primary students? Okay. And how about secondary, teenagers? Okay, plenty of you. And adults, who teaches adults? Okay, and a bit of everything? Okay, so we've got something for everybody today. What we're going to be talking about is encouraging learner autonomy, okay, in the classroom. Obviously, the more responsibility our learners take for their learning, the better their learning will be. And we will be looking at lots of different ideas. It's mainly focused at teenagers, but I think there's plenty there that you could adapt to suit other life stages as well, okay? So, we're going to be looking at the life skills our learners need to be effective autonomous learners. So thinking a little bit about those skills that you saw with Ben just now. And then lots and lots of practical ideas for you to develop these skills and competencies with your students. Okay? So I'm going to try and make this an opportunity for you to get some ideas for activities for you to then take away to develop all of those life skills in the classroom with your students. Okay, so let's have a little think about our learners, about our secondary learners. And since I've been teaching, I think what we're actually teaching our learners has changed a lot. So they're not just learning English anymore. And I think this is happening in other subjects as well. So in their maths lessons, in their science lessons, they're learning other skills. Things like creativity, as we've seen all of these before, digital literacy, critical thinking, collaboration, how to learn, and communication. So they're real 21st century global learners living in a very connected world, which is a lot for us as English teachers to have to do. So where do we start? Well, Ben helped you a little bit by looking at all of those life skills. Looks something like this. And you can see how the different life skills have been divided into two groups here, learning and thinking skills and social and emotional skills. And then what we can do is take each of those skills in turn and break them down and try and think of activities and ideas, things that we can do in the classroom to develop each of those life skills. So that's what we're going to do today. I've just chosen 3. Can you remember how many there were altogether? With Ben, how many did you say there were? 7, 8, 10? There are a lot. We're just going to look at these 3 today, okay? Collaboration. Oops. Critical thinking. And learning to learn, okay? And I've written them in this Venn diagram like this because I think sometimes you can be working on more than one skill at once. They do interconnect and overlap, okay? So we're going to start with critical thinking. And to begin with, one way we can develop critical thinking with our learners and make sure that they are developing their learning as effectively as possible is by making sure that they're always thinking, okay? And by this, I mean, as teachers, exploiting every single opportunity you have to get your students thinking about things. So we're going to start off thinking about the kinds of questions that we ask, because the questions that we ask will determine to what extent our students have to think or not. Particularly, for example, if we're dealing with pictures. Do you use pictures in your class with your students a lot? Okay. So we might ask them questions that just require them to describe what they can see. Describe, the physical description of the picture, which is fine. It's a very valid task. But also, we should be thinking about using questions that get them to think about the picture, the things they could see in the picture, and then to wonder maybe about themes connected to the picture. So what we're trying to do is develop those higher order thinking skills a little bit more. So let's have a look at an example. I've got this photograph here. I love this photo. There's so much going on. Very colorful, bright, and okay, so if we were just asking our students what they could see in the picture, they'd be answering questions like this. What can you see, and what are they doing? Very typical questions you'd find, and you'd probably ask about a picture, okay? But in terms of what the language they'd be producing, it's quite predictable. So if we ask them these questions, they're going to be saying things like the types of clothes they're wearing, the colors, the materials, maybe the positions of where they are in the picture, which, as I say, has its purpose and is valid, but is quite limiting in terms of developing other skills as well. So we can change the questions, use the same picture, to things like this. So, for example, in what ways are you similar and different to them? So getting students to compare themselves with the person in the picture. or to choose two people and to imagine what they're saying. So there's a little bit like what Ben was saying with creative thinking. That's where these skills can overlap. Getting them to think, use their imaginations and imagine the dialogue between two of the people. Or imagine that they're somebody in the picture and think about what they can see if they were looking outside the picture. Or simply answer the question, why are they there? So what I'd like you to do now with the person next to you is to choose maybe just one of those questions or two and answer the questions together and just think about, do you have to actually think a little bit more before answering them, and what kind of language are you producing as you answer the questions? Okay, so I'll just give you a minute to choose one or two questions to answer together. Okay. Does anybody use this for their students? Okay. If you see my hand go up, can you put your hand up too? For some reason it works. It kind of makes everybody stop and listen. With little children as well, you can do that where you get them to put their hands on their heads. Seems to kind of close their mouths and stop them talking. Okay, how did you get on? Did you find that you had to think a little bit more to answer those questions? And you will find that the language that you were using was far more unpredictable. No? So it leads to a richer language production. Okay, let's move on now. And the next idea is giving your questions a sense of achievement. And there's a couple of ways you can do this, which are very, very simple to include in your classroom planning. So, for example, to a question, you could add a specific number. So we have a look at an example here. So we've got this question here, why do people do extreme sports? Now, some of my students, if they answered that, they might just say, well, because they like them. And, you know, they've answered the question, but they haven't said an awful lot. So if you just include a number in the question, for example, think of 3 or more reasons why people do extreme sports, then you're giving them a very achievable task, but you're encouraging them to take part in more longer stretches of meaningful interaction and to speak for a little bit longer. And then we've got this over here, you can see on the screen, or more. Can you see here, I've put, this is not working this light. The or more, what that will do is the students who are a little bit more capable, have got more ideas, more things to say, they'll keep going for a little bit longer. But they still achieve the task, however many ideas they come up with. So that with teenagers works very, very well to help them to focus. It makes it less vague for them. And the other idea is including a time limit. Very, very simple idea. Do you use time limits with your students? Yeah? Okay, this one's a very good one. I've put the address at the bottom there, onlinestopwatch.com. And just by giving them a time limit, you're helping them to focus very much on the task and help them to achieve, when they get to the end of the minute, they know that they've got to achieve the task. So we're going to have a little practice at this one, okay? So you can see here it says, in 1 minute, how many sentences can you write before this question tag, isn't it? Okay? So you need a pen, piece of paper, partner, and a timer. Okay, I can't connect to the online stopwatch, but I'm going to give you 1 minute, 3, 2, 1, off you go. 15 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, time's up. So, let's see how good you are at question tags. How many people wrote 5? Okay, let's go higher. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Oh, you're experts. Well done. Okay. But that's something very simple you can include in your class, and I think you'll find with your teenage learners, they'll really find it motivating. Okay, let's move on. Another thing we can do is to train their brains, okay? So these are there's lots of online, you get these sort of little brain training puzzles, and you've got to guess the next color in the sequence or the next number in the sequence, things like that. Do you know the ones I mean? Okay. But there's things you can do in the classroom as well, which are very, very simple to create, and at the same time, you're training their brains. So let's look at an example. Pictures are a great way of doing this. So we can take a picture. This one's a bit odd. There's plenty to look at. So I'd like everybody to have a look at this picture. Think about all the different things you can see in the picture. Focus on the details, because in a moment, I'm going to take it away. And I'm going to test your memory skills. 10 more seconds. Okay, so can you share with the person next to you, what do you remember that was in the picture? Okay, how did you do? Your memory is still working? Yeah? Okay, now obviously, the aim of this activity is not really to see if your students know all the words for all the fruits and vegetables in English, because there's an awful lot of vocabulary in there, but obviously they would learn that at the same time. But it's really what you're doing is exercising their memory skills. So it's something very simple you can do with any kinds of pictures, as long as there's plenty going on. Or you could just flash the pictures quickly, show them at a different angle. I like showing things upside down, like instructions for activities. I wouldn't recommend doing this with more than one sentence. That's enough. Don't go for a paragraph. But a very simple ideas that will keep your students thinking all the time. Okay. Another thing you can use are puzzles and anagrams, word snakes, code games, things like that. Okay? You often get these already made in course books. But why not make a copy of them, put them around the classroom, give your students a time limit to go around and try and solve as many as possible in the time that they have. And then afterwards, they can make their own. So again, they're kind of using their visual, spatial skills, logical reasoning. And if they have time, as I say, they can make their own at the end. It is a great way also of recycling vocabulary, as we mentioned as well, Ben mentioned. Okay, moving on now. Effective learners solve problems. So including some problem solving in your classes is also very, very valuable. So I've brought along a problem for you today to solve for me. And it involves a crow. Now, crows are incredibly intelligent animals. They're very, very good at solving problems. They're also apparently very, very good communicators. And they can look at a human's face and they can tell if you're a nice person or not. And then they tell all their crow friends. This is what I've heard. So if you do see a crow, do remember to smile. But as well as the crow, here's the problem. Got this lovely nut, but no nutcracker. And even if the crow did have a nutcracker, it wouldn't know how to use it. It wouldn't be able to use it. So the problem I'd like you to think about, and we're going to use this technique, think, pair, share, is individually first, could you think of 3 ways or more that you think the crow can get to the nut? And then, when you've had a think, could you share those ideas with the person next to you? Okay? Use your imagination. The crazier, the better. Okay, so we're going to hear some of your ideas. You ready? Who's got a good idea? Who's thought of a solution to the problem? Put your hands up if you've got a solution. Okay, we've got a solution here. Let's hear your solution.
The crow could bring the nut to a road and try to left on the road for a truck or a car or something to cross the nut and then finally eat the nut.
Okay, great idea. Okay, has anybody got a different solution? Yeah?
I would take it to the highest tree and then, drop it to see if it would break or not.
Okay, another great idea. So we've got taking it to a high tree or dropping it under a car. Would you like to see how the crow does it? Okay. I just have to let you know that it involves a traffic light. Can you think why? Does anybody think of a reason why it might involve a traffic light? Should we find out? Okay, here we go.
Crows have become highly skilled at making a living in these new urban environments. In this Japanese city, they have devised a way of eating a food that normally they can't manage. Dropping a nut from a great height onto a hard road does sometimes crack it, but some nuts are particularly tough. So the crows have devised a better way. Drop it among the traffic. The problem now is collecting the bits without getting run over. So some birds have refined their technique. They station themselves beside pedestrian crossings. for the lights to stop the traffic. Then collect your cracked nut in safety.
It's incredible, isn't it? The power of their skills. But obviously, you can show that problem to your students. And it's not so much if they think of the solution, but the whole process and all of the language that they are producing while they're trying to do that. Very, very valuable type of activity. Okay, we're going to move on now to the next life skill, which is collaboration. So getting your students to work together as much as possible. And one way we can do this is by getting students to pull their ideas and work together at every single opportunity. You spoke this morning, Mark spoke this morning about the power of peer learning from each other, and it's a really, really important skill for us to be including in our lessons. So how can we do this? Well, just this activity here alone. First, you had to think by yourselves, and then you shared your ideas together. But I think including this stage where students think individually gives them an opportunity to come up with ideas. And you might have some students who perhaps a little bit less confident about speaking English, or maybe feel a bit shyer. And just having that time to think of ideas, and maybe they practice saying them to themselves in their heads in English before they share, is an important one. And then when they do come together, they've obviously got more ideas that they can pull together. Okay. This is an idea that I use a lot. You can use it before reading activities, listening activities, to generate ideas to see what students already know about a topic. But also, if you were going to set up a writing activity, sometimes learners, or teenage learners, don't have a lot of ideas or opinions about something. So you can use something like this first to help them to get some ideas together. It's very, very simple. I'll explain how it works. So we have, this is a piece of paper, just a normal piece of paper. And it's been divided into 4 triangles, as you can see. And in the corner of each triangle, you've got words. So one of them says animals. One of them says where Australians are originally from. One says food, and one says places in Australia. So obviously this came before a text about Brazil. No, about Australia, okay? So you've got your students sitting next to each triangle, and again, we're going to give them a time limit. And in that time, they have to write down all the ideas that they have about that topic in the triangle, okay? So they write their ideas there, and then the name of this activity is a carousel of ideas. You know what a carousel is? Yeah, it's something that goes round and round. So this is what happens to the piece of paper. They turn it 90 degrees, so now they're facing a different triangle with different ideas. So now what they have to do, again, is read those ideas, and in the same time limit, give them the time limit again, they will add some more ideas. They can't repeat, they have to add new ideas. And then you repeat it again and again. And then what you have in under 5 minutes is a page full of ideas. And it's a great opportunity, not only for them to teach each other, but for them, as I say, if you were doing this before a writing activity, they could take a photo, and then they all have a whole page of ideas which they can take away and use to work on their writing activity. Or if it was before a reading or a listening, in this case it's a reading, you could use it to become a student-generated task as well. You've spoken about those today, yeah? Very valuable to get students involved in creating the tasks, because if they create the task, they have more interest in actually reading the text afterwards. So this very simply could become, have a look at the text and put a circle around all the ideas that you thought of first. Something as simple as that. And that for them is even more motivating than the fantastic tasks that we've actually written in the course books. They much more enjoy answering their own tasks. Okay. The next thing we're going to be thinking about now is how we can get them to learn from each other. So again, it's going back to that idea of working together with your peers and sharing ideas. And this idea, again, if we were talking about the same text, this is something you can do beforehand too. And as you can see, it's very simple. It's just a line, and at the top there's a box that says, I know a lot, and at the bottom, a box that says, I know a little. And if the topic was Australia, for example, you can ask your students to fill it in, put things at the top that they do know a lot about, connected to Australia, and things that they don't know much about, but maybe they want to find out about at the bottom. So it might look something like this. So this person knows a lot about surfing, barbecues, maybe knows the kind of foods they eat there. Not so much about Melbourne, just a little bit, and not very much about marsupials. So then what they do, this is when they go around the classroom and they look at each other's lines, and if they find that somebody has the thing that they don't know much about is at the top of somebody else's line, then they go to that person and that other student tells them about what they want to know. It's kind of just focusing them a little bit on sharing their ideas. And again, it's not necessarily the strongest students linguistically who do the best at this kind of task. And also, with your adult learners, the more life experience they get, the more varied it is as well, and the more they'll have to share. So you can definitely use it with them as well. Okay, this is another very simple way of getting your students to learn from each other. And what we've got here is just a very typical activity where they're matching definitions to words. So you can see you've got the words in a circle here. They're adjectives to describe people. And then we've got the definitions here. 12 definitions. Now, I will warn you now, this does have minimal teacher preparation, okay? What you have to do is take those 12 definitions and just write them on separate pieces of paper, okay? Like here, this one says, does a lot of exercise. That's one definition. So you've got to make 12 of those. And then the words you would divide up. There are 12 words, divide them up maybe 3 sets of 4, and you'd have different students have a different set of words. And they have to go around the classroom and find their definitions, and then they come back together and they teach each other the meanings of their words. So it's exactly the same as in the book, but you're lifting it off the page, you're getting your students moving around. Teenagers need to move around. They learn better when they move around. So if you can get them moving around the classroom, that's very valuable. And then they teach each other the definitions. And then afterwards, you would need to follow up with some kind of activities that checked that they knew what the definitions were. But you can make it into a little game competition. So again, it's a very simple way of encouraging them to teach each other the content from the actual book itself. Okay. The other thing we could do is encourage them to listen to each other and give feedback. So this definitely relates to those life skills that you were looking at earlier as well. Does anybody know what this is? It is an omelette. It's a special kind of omelette. Do you know where it's from? Okay, yeah, this is where I live in Spain. This is really, really popular and really, really yummy. Really nice. Has anybody here tried tortilla de patata, it's called? Have you tried it? Okay, well, you'll back me up here. It's good, yeah? Do you know the ingredients that are used in it? Very simple, no? How do you make it? Eggs. Potatoes. No garlic. Onions optional. Yeah, you can put some onion in if you like. Salt. And that's it. Nothing else. And obviously oil, olive oil. If it's in Spain, olive oil. Do you use olive oil a lot here too? Yeah. So you need olive oil to make it. But it's very, very simple to make. And the reason I've chosen this, not just because it's so delicious and very simple to make, but it's something that everybody knows how to make as well. So when you're trying to encourage your students, perhaps, to give each other feedback, I think it's always worth starting with a context that they're all familiar with and they feel confident about talking about and giving feedback on. So for this kind of activity, what would be the equivalent in Brazil? What's a dish that everybody knows how to make that's very, very simple to make? Brigadeiro. Brigadeiro? Brigadeiro. Okay, and how do you make brigadeiro? Condensed milk? Chocolate? And butter. Really healthy then, yeah? But really delicious, I imagine. Okay, so choosing something that your students are familiar with and that they can talk about easily will help them to really listen respectfully to each other. They can choose different recipes, and then afterwards they can listen and give feedback. What was the recipe for? What ingredients do you need? And would you like to eat this food? But I think you can go beyond that, and they can imagine that they're, I don't know, making a little YouTube video, and they're explaining how to make this to people in other countries who don't know that dish. And then they can very easily, because they both know the context, they can easily give each other feedback on how well they did, or if they need to change anything, or add anything, or make anything clearer. And also, I don't know about in Brazil, but in Spain, everybody loves talking about food. Is it the same here? Okay. Okay, now this is, when it comes to giving feedback, students aren't very good at it. They do need help doing it. They need, I think they need you to come in here and to guide them on how to give feedback, particularly on writing. If you ask them to give each other feedback straight off on a writing task, they might just go in and try and find all the mistakes and write all over it, and that's not really what you want. You want them giving them feedback on things like how interesting it is, if everything's clear, if all the ideas are clear. In this particular activity, what they do first, you can see you've got these little emojis. And first of all, they'll look at a model, a piece of writing, and they will decide how well, they'll decide how well the writer did all of these things, and circle the correct face. And then when they've done that, they'll do it on their partner's writing. So you're sort of building them up gradually to give feedback. Okay, so they write their own story, and then they give their partner their story, and they circle the emojis in a checklist about their partner's story. But first they need a model. They do need guidance with this. And then at the end, they use their answers in the checklist to tell their partner what they liked and what they can improve. So there you're really helping them learn how to give feedback to each other. Okay, the next one is giving feedback after project work. Do you use project work a lot with your students? Yeah? Okay. I use it a lot too. Sometimes I find when they're supposed to present to each other, and you say, right, we're going to have group one come up and they're going to present their project to the rest of the class, and the rest of the class aren't even listening. So you need to kind of feed in ways of making sure that they listen to each other during presentations, no? So one thing I get them to do at the beginning of the presentation is they think of a question or a couple of questions that the other groups have got to answer about their presentation. Something content-related, maybe, that's hidden in the presentation, just to kind of encourage them to really listen carefully to each other. And then afterwards, it's quite nice to, in this case, this is for a written project. They produce a leaflet. But I think afterwards it's nice to then think about all of the presentations, all of the projects in the class, all the groups, and decide which one they feel is the most interesting, or which one has the best design in this case. So some kind of questions that get them to evaluate all of the output, all of the project work that's been produced in the class. If there's posters, what I found works quite well is asking each group writes some questions about their posters, and then they put up like a class display, like an exhibition, and they have to go around and answer those questions about the other people's posters. And again, that's a way of helping them to read and look at everything on the poster, because otherwise they just kind of look at it and they don't really say very much. So I think we need to guide them there with that. Okay, I'm going to move on to the last life skill now, which is learning to learn. And one of the things that I think is really important is getting your students to do all the work. So anything that they can be doing, that you find yourself doing, get them to do it. You know, you work very, very hard, and I think the more they're involved in learning, the better they're going to learn. So, for example, when we're talking about target and emergent language, thinking about all the vocabulary that, not only the vocabulary that comes up in the course book, so here we have the target language, but also for me, the most interesting language is all that language that they want to know as they're working on tasks, or as they're working on a project, or just talking to their partner. As I say, because that's the language they're really interested in learning and that they don't know. So thinking about ways that we can help them to record and recycle this language. The first task, well actually it's a rule in my classes, is this one, 3 before me. And what that means is, if there's a word that somebody doesn't know, you know, you get those moments where they're coming up to you all the time, teacher, how do you say this? How do you say that? And you turn into a walking dictionary. Has that ever happened to you? So instead of just answering them, my rule is 3 before me. And what they have to do is they have to go and ask another 3 students in the class before they ask me. And 80% of the time, another student will be able to tell them the word they want. So then, not only are you encouraging them to learn from each other, but also the student that teaches the word to the other student is reactivating that word, because obviously vocabulary, we can't just see it once, we need to be reactivating it time and time again. But it's also, it gives you a little bit more time to be doing other things as well. Now, obviously, there will be times when nobody knows the word, so in that case, you will have to give them the word that they want. But I don't write it on the board. I get them to write it on the board. And as you know, in English, the sound-spelling relationship is complicated, particularly, you know, for lower-level students. And at first, you know, you'll say, right, go and write the word on the board, and I spell it to them, and they write it full of mistakes. But it doesn't matter, because little by little, by the end of the year, they get much, much quicker at it. And then they want to write a word. So they're asking for all this new language, and it's very motivating for them. And you'll find that they will actually get better at spelling throughout the year. And then at the end of the lesson, they then choose their new word from today, from all of the words that have gone up on the board. So we've got all this wonderful language on the board. And what I want to do at the end of the lesson is not just rub the board and clear it away, but to keep that language, because that's the language your students have asked for and they want to learn. So I use vocabulary cards and bags. Does anybody else here use vocabulary cards with your students? Yeah, a few of you. And these are very, very simple to make. Again, they make them, not you. They do the work. I'll show you what they look like. Very sophisticated. That's it. Okay? So it's just a plastic wallet full of word cards. I'll show you in a minute. And they obviously build up over the year. Don't have it. Every class you might have 4 or 5 cards that go in the bag. So let's see an example. I've got 2 examples here. You read those. It's a fruit, it's big, outside is green and inside is red. And then we've got an animal that you can see in the sea. It has electricity in its legs. I think that's something to do with SpongeBob. Can you guess what the words are? Obviously, the first one's watermelon and jellyfish. Okay? And you can see here on watermelon, at the end of the word, they've marked the part of speech, and they've also had a go at marking the stressed syllable, and jellyfish as well. Okay, I've got a couple more. So that's on one side of the card is the picture, and on the other side is the word. Next one. It's a person who does magic, and then we've got the opposite of tame. So again, I'm sure you can guess what the words are. Okay, and again, they've tried to include the part of speech and the pronunciation. They're trying to have a go at putting in the pronunciation there to remember that we say wild, not wild. Okay, so then all of these cards go into a... And then those times that they say, we want to play a game. Can we play a game? Do your students say that to you? Okay, well, you have the game here. Well, you have the tools for the game. Can you think, what kind of games can you play with these cards? Guessing games like Taboo. Do you know the game Taboo, where they've got to describe the word without saying it? That's also developing a very, very useful communication skill. They're talking around a word that they don't know. Okay, any more? Miming games. Who am I? Guess who? Yeah, Pictionary, I like that one. Or, you could pick out a couple of cards at random and they have to make a story based around them. There's lots and lots of things you can do. It's very, very simple to do. And also, something you could use equally with primary, secondary, or adults. Okay. So we're also encouraging them to use a variety of learn-to-learn techniques. And what we're doing here is creating good habits in the classroom. Okay? And obviously, there are lots and lots of learning strategies that you introduce to your students at the start of the year. And it's just being consistent with those and supportive. And, for example, before a task, always getting them to maybe look at it, depending on what it is, if it's a reading with pictures and a title, encouraging them to predict what they think the text is about first, but telling them why they're doing it as well, so that they're kind of becoming aware of these learning skills. And there are lots and lots of those, I think, always threaded throughout a course book that you can pick up on. This one's quite nice. You don't often get this, teaching them how to learn to work in pairs. I think that's quite nice. So you can just have a look at that with the person next to you, see how you answer those questions or how you would complete those sentences rather, with either always or never to be a good partner. So could you have a look at those for a second and decide? Okay, so it's a very, very simple way of trying to teach them how to listen respectfully to each other and work together. And that's kind of what we're working towards. And not just listening to each other, but sort of listening and evaluating what they say to each other. So then feeding back with things like, in this case, obviously they've been asked to talk about things that they like and don't like, but then in feedback, getting them to say what they both like, what one of them likes and the other one doesn't, what neither of them like, but just this idea of them actually really listening to each other because they need to use that information to then answer other questions. That's the way that you can do it, through little activities like this. Okay. And finally, I just want to have a look at identifying goals and reflections. So thinking a little bit about reflective learning. And there's different ways you can use this. This is a very simple idea. It's very KWL chart. Those of you who work in primary have maybe used these before, and secondary too. And you've got 3 parts to it. And at the beginning of a new topic, maybe it's a topic about space, or about festivals around the world, or about Brazil, or about whatever, first you would get your students to write down what they know about the topic already, and then asking them questions, what they want to learn about the topic, in the middle here, what I want to know. So then you're getting them curious about it, kind of getting them motivated to want to find out. And then at the end of the unit, or the end of the topic, or the project, or whatever, reflecting on what they've learned. And some of that might coincide with the middle column, or it might be other things as well. And I think that's a very valuable thing to do, to get them to reflect. They say that you don't just learn from experience, but reflecting on the experience. And I think that's true of our learners too. Again, this idea of emojis makes it very simple for them to complete, but they still have to think about it. But as Ben was saying, you can use those can-do statements to make your own, and then to help them to then decide how well they've done each of the things, whatever it is that you've been learning. Okay, and finally, this is something that I use a lot with a short project that I do with students to create a short film. And the thing about longer projects, if you like, is I find that we need to divide it up into stages, and at the beginning and end of each stage, get them to think about what's coming up in this stage of the project, and then at the end, reflecting on how well they did. So this is just a short example here. This is before the part where they write the scenes to their film. And before they write the scenes, first they have to think about, when they're working together in a group, so they're collaborating, what language they're going to need to use. So they're going to need to give ideas and make suggestions in their group. They're going to need to listen. This is one of the big kind of things we're trying to encourage in their life skills, to listen to everyone's ideas, agree and disagree. In terms of writing, they're going to need to write the dialogue for the main scenes. And then other skills they're going to be developing, their creativity, imagination, and decision-making. So they think about that before they do the project, this stage of the project, and then afterwards they reflect on how happy they are with their performance. Okay? So again, it's another way of involving them in the reflection, and I think it's fairly manageable for them to do. Okay, so we've had a look at all three of these life skills. As I say, they do overlap, connect. But hopefully, it's given you some ideas for developing them with your teenage students, or with your students, adult students or primary students too. And I'd just like you now to reflect on your learners, whatever life stage, whatever age they are, their background, and just think about which of the activities or ideas from today are going to be the most useful for you to take back to your teaching context. So I've got a little reminder here, and I'd like you to choose 3 and tell the person next to you which 3 activities, just put those back again, would be the most useful for you to take away. Okay? Okay. Well, that just leaves me to ask if anybody has any questions now. Or if not, if you think of any questions you'd like to come and ask me, do come and find me in the break. Be more than happy to answer your questions. And just to say, thank you for listening. Molto obrigada. And there's just a few links. And I hope you found it useful and the ideas today. Thank you.
Obrigado, hein, por me avisar. Salva de palmas para Samantha. Obrigado. É o seguinte, daqui a 5 minutos eu vou dar uma boa notícia para vocês, que talvez seja o quê? Comida. É impressionante, as pessoas já estão assim, ó. Mas é o seguinte, antes de o coffee break, eu e o Leonardo, que estava... Como seria o roteiro desse dia, né? Qual seria a nossa participação da Companhia do Quintal? E ele falando sobre... Eu não conhecia, na verdade, o vídeo do Celebration Stories. A gente viu um ponto comum em todos os vídeos, que são nãos que a gente recebe na vida e como transforma os nãos em si, né? Como as adversidades podem ser uma grande possibilidade de oportunidades. E eu contei uma história e o Leonardo falou assim, por que você não conta rapidinho essa história que você não está no Celebration Stories, mas a sua história tem muito a ver. Em 2001, eu estava numa grande, e não só em 2001, eu acho muito legal fazer um evento com professores e artistas, porque a gente somos cúmplices, porque eu acho que tanto artista como professor não é profissão, é vocação, né? A gente não espera o final do mês para ser feliz com a nossa escolha. Por isso que é vocação, a nossa paixão está na ação de fazer. E estamos sendo presenteados com enorme adversidade e fazendo com que a nossa classe seja extinta, infelizmente. E é só com muita paixão que a gente vai responder a todos que querem com que a gente suma, que com paixão você não vai fazer sumir ninguém. Por isso, eu me sinto muito cúmplice e me sinto muito feliz quando eu tenho a oportunidade de olhar para os professores e, na verdade, a gente tem que fazer uma guerrilha, né? Não de forças armadas, e sim de forças amadas. Espero que as pessoas entendam isso. Em 2001, não só em 2001, mas muitos anos, cheguei naquele ponto de falar, cara, de novo meu sonho vai ser colocado debaixo, né, as 7 chaves dentro de uma gaveta. Eu tentava fazer teatro, o público não ia. Divulgação nem pensar, porque eu não era uma pessoa, e nem sou ainda, uma pessoa conhecida para ser, né, motivação para que as pessoas me coloquem na capa de alguma revista. E eu falei, putz, nesse momento, que eu faço com a minha carreira? Desisto e continuo começando uma carreira de frustrações ou invisto no meu sonho? Em 2001, fui num festival internacional de palhaço na Paraíba, onde eu tive o privilégio de estar junto com mais de 200 palhaços melhores do mundo, e eu participei durante 10 anos do projeto Doutores da Alegria, Palhaços em Hospitais, e foi representando os Doutores da Alegria que eu fui nesse festival, e foi para mim um grande divisor de águas. Voltei, depois dessa experiência de convívio com esses palhaços, que eu fui entender o que é fazer palhaço e ser palhaço, que é totalmente diferente. Voltei, e eu estava nessa época namorando uma menina do Rio de Janeiro, dela me liga e fala, nossa César, um amigo meu fez questão de me ligar e dizer, cara, o seu namorado é super legal, ele fez um campeonato de futebol na praia com os palhaços, fez uma excursão num barco para pescar, nossa, ele achou você incrível. Eu desliguei o telefone e falei, peraí, é um elogio? Só que eu saio de um festival de palhaço e sou reconhecido como um guia turístico. Só que eu fiquei pensando, falei, mas é elogio, 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 não é uma crítica. E aí eu percebi, entendi, às vezes é muito difícil você escutar um elogio, e eu percebi que naquele momento, a minha maior virtude, a maior potência, não seria montar um espetáculo de teatro. E sim, ele me deu de presente um elogio que naquele momento eu era um grande agregador de pessoas. Aí estava a minha potência, né? A gente às vezes procura a nossa potência longe da gente, a nossa potência está dentro da gente. As nossas maiores virtudes é sermos quem somos, dentro da nossa singularidade, dentro das nossas paixões. Eu falei, peraí, entendi esse elogio, eu não vou montar um espetáculo. Se a minha potência é ser agregador, eu vou montar na minha casa, na Pompeia, na rua Cotoxó, em São Paulo, um clube. Que pensamento louco, né? Montar um clube porque eu quero ser agregador. E dentro desse clube, chamado Clube de Regatas Cotoxó, há 16 anos atrás, criou um espetáculo chamado Jogando no Quintal, que se tornou o pioneiro na linguagem do improviso, né? Então, através desses nãos, eu falei, pera, na minha casa eu posso montar um teatro, né? Não tem um público, mas tem os amigos. E tem um bando de palhaços amigos que podem, juntos, de mão dada, estar nesse sonho. Então, público eu tinha, que eram meus amigos, teatro eu tinha, e tinha muita vontade. E essa história eu vou terminar aqui, porque eu acho que esse vídeo diz o que aconteceu com essa história.
É maravilhoso, é pura improvisação, talento. Dá uma olhada.
E os caras são bons nisso.
Tava chamando a atenção de todo mundo, vamos ver? Olha lá.
Jogando no quintal.
Jogando no quintal!
Jogando no quintal.
Jogando no quintal.
Jogando no quintal.
Jogando no quintal.
Que começou a formar fila aqui na porta. O quintal dessa casa ficou pequeno, eles passaram para um quintal maior, que ficou pequeno também, e hoje em dia os caras lotam todo final de semana um teatro de 500 lugares com as representações de improvisos de palhaços. O nome desse fenômeno? Jogando no quintal. Vamos conhecer agora o dono do quintal original.
E o Leonardo falou, divida essa história com vocês e dizer que continuemos apaixonados e seguir o nosso coração, não a nossa cabeça, porque isso é teimosia. E quando a gente segue o coração, aí é paixão, é bem diferente do que teimosia. E o João, quando viu a gente transformar esse lugar numa chuva, metaforicamente ou literalmente, todos os dias a gente está tendo que fazer chover. E os recursos estão dentro da gente. Boa sorte, até já, bom coffee break. Valeu!